Why did your teacher get fired? Viewer edition.
Story 1. Concerning Story 26 from the original video, I have a similar one to this. The high school I graduated from had a science teacher which I actually had for a few weeks. My schedule was not right at the time. He was one of those cool teachers that everyone, even his coworkers, liked. His mistake? Give out his number to everyone in case we needed help with schoolwork and say no. Even the other teachers knew this, and apparently it was something he had always done. Students appreciated it as he did help them. One female student got mad at him, if I remember correctly, because he didn't want to date her. She flat out said in front of the class, lucky me, I was there for that part, that she would make him regret it. We were all in shock, and some classmates had her leave the class. Next thing that happened, she accused him of coming on to her. For evidence, she had his number. That was it. No one was on her side. Everyone, even other teachers, were worried, not for the students, but for the science teacher. He was told to resign. I think that's what is called when teachers leave on their own, as even the principal knew this couldn't be real, but the whole thing had gotten attention from parents, the effing parents. So he couldn't stay. I don't remember if he got fired or resigned. School was in a depressed mood for some time after he left. As for the bee, well, some students took justice into their own hands. She didn't come back either because she was beaten up by a group of students outside of school property. So school couldn't do crap because it wasn't on their property, and authorities, if they got involved, couldn't do anything either because there was no proof of who did it nor where it happened. Now, only the vigilantes and probably their friends know who it was. Other than that, even if anyone else knew, we all had a silent agreement that we wouldn't say anything. Teacher knew the bee got beaten up as word spread because she was absent, but not even then did they show concern for her. Not only was that horrible, but she could have done it to anyone else along the way. Concerning Story 28, in middle school, that special ed kids were pushed and shoved by their caretakers in school. Not even the school a-holes would bother this kid. I hope those kids are doing okay. Well, I'm not going to condone violence against this girl, even though what she did was absolutely awful, and she certainly deserves something. Violence and beating someone up isn't the answer, especially vigilante stuff like that can definitely go way too far, and then more people are in trouble. It's not worth it. But something should have happened, and my God, the principal or someone at the school, something should have been done. Something should have been pushed, because the idea of a teacher giving out their number and that being oh, well, there's nothing we can do now, that makes no sense to me. I feel like I've gotten a number from a teacher or something. Maybe? I don't know. Maybe that was college, but that just sucks. Story 2. Does a school nurse count as a teacher? Because I have a story for this subject. I've been going to residential school since my parents wanted me to focus more on my studies as well as making friends. I have a lot of health issues, so I had to visit the nurse's office quite a bit. I loved all the nurses except for one of them, a male nurse who became my nightmare for the next 2 years. He was specifically the nurse that took me and other students to appointments that needed to be done off campus, such as blood draws or x-rays. The problems I had with him are the following. 1, he always smells heavily of cigarettes when he comes to pick me up, and I'm very sensitive to the smell of smoke. 2, sometimes he would actually smoke in the car while I was there, which made me at the risk of getting secondhand smoke. 3, he had a Nintendo Switch with him at every appointment. Normally that's okay. I typically brought a device and a book with me to entertain myself while waiting in the clinic hospital lobby. But he didn't use it while we were inside the clinic hospital. He used it while he was driving with me in the car too. We're lucky we never crashed or rear-ended anyone. I never liked him. I always felt this aura of unsafe laziness whenever I was anywhere near him. Unfortunately, I was never allowed to take pictures or record anything while we were out, so when I tried to tell the teachers and staff these horrible things he was doing, they sort of assumed I was overreacting, which I have done in the past. My feelings are never wrong, though, and the truth prevailed at the end of my second year at that school. He got caught by some of the other nurses taking pills from some of the ADHD kids' medicine sticks. You know, those long cube-shaped things you put pills into and they have the days of the week on them. He wasn't just fired from the school, he actually went to court, and from what I last heard, he's doing jail time for it. I'm just happy no one else has to put up with him anymore. No one from the school, at least. okay, first things first, I don't care if you're not allowed to like record in school grounds and stuff like that. If someone's putting your life at risk by playing video games while they should be driving, sneak a recording of that. I don't care. If it's against the rules, your life is potentially at risk. So no, get some evidence. And also, just what a jerk. Like, clearly that person did not care about anyone but himself. And God, I hope that he has learned a lesson and that he improves.
Story 3. So, these are teachers my brother had, and I've heard them secondhand. Every year in high school, a teacher would get fired. 9th grade, my bro's science teacher was just plain incompetent, so much so that she was quaking in her boots when the principal and all 4 vice principals came in for an observation. She resigned at the end of the year. 10th grade, male teacher was being a creep to girls in the class and showing favoritism to some of them. Bro was in a group/conspiracy to get him fired, but other students reported him. He got the sack anyway. 11th grade, the teacher who ran the National Honor Society was never very popular as she treated the male students worse than the female students. This came to a head when it was discovered she was giving perks to the girls in the society but not any of the guys, despite the guys having higher grades than some of the girls. This did not sit well with some of the girls. They reported her, and she got fired for sexism. 12th grade, a male teacher in school was notorious for playing favorites, not being a competent teacher, and chewing gum in class even though that was forbidden. Everyone hated him, but he never got fired. When some kids reported his terrible and unfair grading practices to the front office, they said that while they heard and understood where they were coming from, they couldn't do anything unless they had things in writing. Come around Christmas, this teacher hands out feedback forms. One girl was smart enough to keep her form with negative feedback on there since she knew the teacher would destroy any forms that painted him in a bad light. Instead of giving it to the teacher, she went straight to the front office and gave it to them. They must have been looking for an excuse to get rid of him since he was gone before Christmas. Story 4. I have 2 of these, tangentially related, and oddly both for the same subject. Both times French was mandatory in my school years, I got bad teachers. First, in 4th grade, this French teacher learned I was arachnophobic. So she began bringing a big tarantula preserved in glass or resin or whatever to school, blocking my way out of class at the end, and refusing to let me leave until I looked at it and amused her with my reaction. After a week or so of showing up to my next class freaked out, I confessed to that period's teacher, and she disappeared for 2 weeks. I later learned she was suspended without pay. She came back, refused to make any sort of eye contact with me, and I have no idea how good I really was at French because my grades were a minimal pass, like she wanted to make sure I'd be out of her life. She wasn't there the following year, and I have no idea if she was let go or left of her own volition. Either way, good riddance. Second, 7th grade French. Brand new teacher, he was too damn fast. Here's the verb and the 6 to 8 conjugations. The second he'd show us the last one, he was erasing the board to do the next one. We couldn't take notes fast enough, and even the advanced students were doing no better than low 60s. They not only had to let this guy go, but assure all our parents our French grades would not be held against us academically. In essence, the school just pretended that particular semester class had never taken place.
See, this is a thing about French teachers. You cannot trust them. Get rid of all of them. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't have anything meaningful to say other than it's kind of wild that in your time at school, 2 French teachers were gotten rid of, but it sounds like it was justified.
Story 5. I know I'm late, but this needs to be told, so here goes. My teacher, who we will call Ms. S., didn't necessarily get fired, but she quit on her own. She was bullied by the kids a lot and planned to quit after winter break, but quit earlier because of one incident. A kid whose name I don't know was pressing the teacher for some BS reason and ended up punching her in the stomach. He then proceeded to say, and I quote, "You're lucky you're not pregnant because if I were you, I would have killed it, but here's the kicker, she was pregnant." I think the baby's all right, though, but I'm not sure. She reported the student, but for some reason, I'm unaware that the principal or whoever she reported him to didn't do anything about it, which caused her to quit. We were promised a new teacher, but she must have caught wind of what happened because she turned it down. We were stuck with a teacher we will call Mr. M for the rest of the year. I don't know where Ms. S is or what she is doing, but I wish her and the baby nothing but the best and want to give the kid who assaulted Ms. S a big fat F you.
All right, yeah, no, any kid who would hit a teacher like that should be tried as an adult, and that's just awful. Even if she absolutely was not pregnant, hitting someone like that, no, not okay in the least. And I also hope that she is okay and that the baby was okay, because if not, then nope, too mad. Can't talk.
Story 6. Teacher went totally insane. Didn't get fired, but did get committed to a mental hospital. It was both horrifying and fascinating to watch his decline. We noticed he was a bit off, but nothing terrible the first year. Second year, his behavior got odder, and after summer break, he returned for the third year and was definitely strange. He would walk a few steps, back up a few steps, walk forward again, repeat until he made it to his desk. We used to bet on how many times he would enter and back out of class until he got to his seat. Then he got rid of the desk and brought in a pulpit and would just stand there and read the Bible out loud to us. He even had the pulpit carried to the gym where he stood and read his Bible out loud as we played volleyball. Then the pulpit was carried back to class. He disappeared one day along with his pulpit. He was in the hospital for years. Story 7. Not a teacher, but my bus driver in 8th grade. His name was Mr. Mike, and he was awesome. I had ridden on his bus since the beginning of the 6th grade. Along with being a bus driver, he also played piano in a jazz band. I'm not sure if it's a jazz band, but I think it is. Anyway, he would let all the students off at their houses instead of making them walk home, and would sing and play music on the bus. Near the end of 8th grade, he told everyone he was retiring, and while we were all happy for him, I wished he would stay until the end of the year, but that wasn't the case. Turns out he was fired because he would let students off at their house and not at the stop sign, and apparently that's illegal. We all found out when the majority of the 9th graders in the back started chanting, "We want Mr. Mike!" I wasn't because 1, I don't have the courage to do anything that might get me in huge trouble, and 2, I sat at the front of the bus with my brother who was in 6th grade. And the lady driving said, "I wish he was still driving as well, but he got fired for letting kids off at their houses." The whole bus got quiet, and we just kind of sat there in shock.
Okay, maybe it's just because I grew up slightly outside of town, and so if they dropped me off at a stop sign, it would be literally a mile from my house. But what a weird law, and what a weird thing to get angry at a bus driver for. If the bus driver is able to do it and it's not delaying folks or whatever, that makes no sense. Mr. Mike, I'm fighting for you. I'm here on your side. Let's all, I don't know, find Mr. Mike, give him a bus.
Story 8. My physics teacher during my junior year resigned halfway through the school year, COVID-related, out of health concerns because he had respiratory issues and there had been an increase in COVID cases. Fast forward a few weeks later, and his wife reports him missing after he didn't come home one night. Keep in mind, this was a relatively small area, so word spread pretty quickly, and soon there were posters and a Facebook page asking for help finding him. Well, one day after I came home from track practice, my mom, who had been assisting in the case, tells me they found my teacher dead in an abandoned building not far from where I lived, and that a separate kid who I knew was the one who found his body in a janitor's closet and reported it. From what he told me, it looked like he'd been there for weeks. Story 9. Wasn't a teacher, but a security guard at my high school. This was, I want to say, maybe 2-ish years after I graduated. I was talking with one of my younger cousins who is 2 years younger than me. We grew up in the same town, so we went to the same high school. I was asking her how she was liking the junior/senior campus. Our high school had 2 separate campuses, and if you were to ask anyone who goes to the high school, almost everyone will tell you the junior-senior campus is better. She said she was enjoying it and that it was better than the freshman-sophomore campus. I asked her if she knew if this one security guard still worked there. He was the coolest one out of all of them, a really sweet and chill guy. Actually, it looked like he enjoyed his job. My cousin went on to tell me that, unfortunately, he was caught smoking weed with a student behind the bleachers in the gym and was promptly fired. It's a shame. Dude was super chill and always gave the best high fives when I saw him.
Well, yeah, of course the dude was super chill and gave the best high fives. he was high. Now look, I'm totally an advocate for the recreational use of the devil's lettuce, but you can't be getting down with electric cabbage on the job, especially if your job is in a school. I'm sorry. So, I mean, that does suck. I'm sure that this was a nice person, but no, you gotta save that for after work, buddy.
Story 10. That teacher got fired for multiple child molestations and multiple assaults against children. This was my 6th grade science teacher. Most of those who had him as our teacher really enjoyed his class. He was one of the few teachers who seemingly clearly cared about the well-being of each and every one of us. We were all blindsided when our principal came into class and explained what had happened. They found a substitute who ended up being with us for the rest of the school year. This was well over a decade ago. I'm 90% he's still in a maximum security federal prison. I hope he's still in prison. I don't know when he gets out at all. I don't think he got a life sentence, but I could be wrong. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, I don't remember his name. Story 11. A female gym teacher at the junior high hid cameras in the girls' locker room and was selling the videos online, 2009. She was convicted of manufacture and distribution of CP. She got 22 years and 9 months in prison. She was given such a hard time in prison that she was transferred to a federal prison 2,000 miles away to keep her alive. The school quietly settled a lawsuit with the victim's parents for several $1 million. It was actually paid for by the teacher's family, as they didn't believe the school should have to pay for the teacher's crimes. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.